Good afternoon, producer Susan. How's your life? How's life treating you now?
Well, Jersey Joe, it snowed here this morning.
You're kidding. I had the air conditioning on here last week. It was 91 degrees on Friday. 91. I had the air conditioning on, and
It was definitely up in the 80s last week, but I refused to turn the air conditioning on in April.
Oh my goodness. How's your dog dealing with the change in weather?
Yeah, he likes the air conditioning
Okay.
and the snow,
All
just like
right.
his mama.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get some more spring-like weather. As usual, we have a lot to talk about. Don't know if we're going to make it through. But hey, for those who are listening first time, it's the situation with Jerzee Joe. It's news and perspective that you won't hear on TV. I'm sure there's some stories we're going to talk about you haven't heard about at all, and we may give you some perspective on stories you heard about on TV, but you only heard one side of the story. Um, Let me tell you what we're going to try to squeeze in today. Our quote of the day is from the author Thomas Sowell on why it's so important to study history. And our stupidest thing of the week, the stupidest thing I've heard all week segment, we have two contenders. One who is outraged because she thinks the supermarket is selling lion meat, and the other is a petition by very obese people who want to try to get the FAA to force airlines to allow them to buy two seats for the same price as one seat. We'll tell you about the next increase in stamp prices and why you should stock up on stamps now if you use them. We'll tell you about a new Biden administration FHA mortgage rule that will require people with good credit to pay higher mortgage fees than people with bad credit. Following our discussion last week, we talked about how Whole Foods in San Francisco was closing one of their flagship stores in San Francisco after just 12 months because of high crime and thefts. And we'll tell you about 4 more store closings that have just been announced in the past 7 days. We'll play you a hilarious and sad clip of a bunch of climate experts testifying at a congressional hearing who were asked a very, very simple question about how much CO2 is in the atmosphere, and not a single one of them could answer that very simple question. It was incredibly embarrassing. And we'll tell you about how 5,000 teenagers were given access to guns and ammunition over an 8-day period. And we want you to guess how many people got shot over that 8-day period with 5,000 teenagers walking around with loaded guns. And our taxpayer relief shot is from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where a car thief tries to run over a car's owner. You think we can fit that in? I dropped out about 3 items.
Yeah, I don't know. That's gonna be tight.
I dropped out the one by the way, if anybody's interested, 18,000 dairy cows died in a fire this week. If you want to go look that up, just Google that. But that's going to put a big dent in milk prices. Anyway, from author Thomas Sowell, here's our quote of the week. And his quote is, "One of the most important reasons for studying history is that virtually every stupid idea that is in vogue today has been tried before and proved to be disastrous time and time again." I see that over and over. I don't know if you see it, but you know,
history always repeats itself. We can't learn from the past, can we?
and for some reason, stupid ideas just don't seem to ever go away. So I'm just blown away by how many people, well, we should do this. Well, it's been done before, it failed before 2 or 3 times, and now you want to do it again. Now, we have 2 contenders for the stupidest thing I've heard all week. Now, this first one, I don't know if this girl is really this stupid or she was staging this just to get some TikTok, hits. But, and I want to warn listeners, 20 seconds into this clip, she uses the F word. So if you're offended by the F word, after 15 seconds, just turn down your speakers for 5 seconds because she uses the F word. But she picks up a package of loin, Loin, loin chops in the meat section. And if her reading comprehension is that bad, she thinks they're lion chops, which of course is an endangered species. So we're going to play that one first. And you tell me, now again, I don't know if she's doing this for laughs or if she's really this stupid. But let's see if I can find this clip of this young lady.
Really about to show y'all why we need to move out of America. Look at this. They're selling lion chops. They're taking exotic animals and cutting them up and putting them in our local grocery stores. Look, I'm at Safeway. They're putting lion meat in the fucking grocery stores. Lion meat.
All right. So what do you think? Is she really that stupid?
You know, I'd like to think that people can't possibly be that stupid, but I've seen crazy shit happen.
Yeah, it's a package. It's got a big label on it. It's called veal loin chops with a big label, and she's
Yeah.
at least claiming that she thinks they're lion chops.
And we'll link to the video on the website tomorrow so you can see the video in person if you want to see
Yeah,
it.
you can decide for yourself if this girl is really that stupid. Now, on to the other contender, and producer Susan, I'll let you pick. Now, you're familiar with change.org. This is where you can put up petitions and get people all over. You can have a petition for anything. Right? You know about change.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So a group of very obese people, you've seen these shows, My 600-Pound Life on TV. I don't know if you ever watched them, but they're there, right? They have actually started a petition, and they've got, I don't know, 700 signatures ready. They're petitioning the FAA to mandate to force airlines to be forced to sell them two coach seats for the same price as one, because they can't fit in one seat. And they're saying, we're not asking for special treatment. We just don't want to be, quote, discriminated against. Well, if you ask me, if you want an airline to sell you two seats for the price of one, you are asking for special treatment. Am I crazy? Or are they
No,
asking
that is asking for special
for special
treatment.
treatment? So
I understand where they feel that it's discrimination, but they are asking for special treatment.
yeah, I mean, airline seats have been the same width for 50 years, and now there's, hey, if you want a bigger seat, buy a first class ticket. They're up there.
Well, I feel like in their defense that airlines are making them smaller and smaller and smaller.
Well, actually, they can't. They are the 737 that has been this. Actually, now they've given you less knee room front to back,
Okay.
but side to side, the cabin dimensions of a 737 or 757 haven't changed in 30 years, and the aisle dimensions haven't changed either. So, in terms of how wide the seats are, no, the width of a seat hasn't changed in 30 years. Yes, now, do you have less leg room, less knee room? Absolutely, but no, the armrests haven't gotten fatter, the aisles haven't gotten wider. So the seat you're sitting in today is the same width as the seat you were sitting in 20 years ago. So between those two, assuming the girl that thought they were selling lion meat, or the obese people who want to get two seats for the price of one, which is the stupidest thing you've heard all week, assuming both are true?
Assuming both are true, I want to go with the girl selling lion meat.
Thinks the store is selling lion. Yeah, that would have to be mine as well. All right. So let's talk about price. Did you know the price of stamps was going to go up July 1st?
I did not.
Do you use many stamps?
No, I today's my niece's birthday and I mail her a birthday card, and that's the only time I ever use stamps.
Okay, well, I use
because I pay my bills online.
All right. Well, if you use stamps, let me just tell you how inflation is impacting the post office. Now, in the 3 decades from 1970 to 2000, stamp prices increased an average of just 3.5 times per decade. That means once every 3 years or so, the price of a stamp would go up every 3 years. Now, as an indication of how bad inflation is, January 1, the price of a postage stamp went up by 3 cents. July 1, it's going to go up by another 3 cents. That is not 3.5 years. That is 7 months between increases. And this will be July 1 will be the third increase in 12 months. So instead of getting one increase every 3 years, we're getting 3 increases in 12 months. And this most recent increase, by the way, will be a 5.4% increase from 63 cents to 66 cents. So if you use a lot of stamps for whatever reason, you got a lot of relatives, you send birthday cards, or you're in some sort. By the way, it goes up on postage meters too. So if you do a lot of mailers, you're in a business, you got a home business where you do a lot of mailing, stock up on postage stamps now, because July 1, everything goes up by 5.4%.
And I feel like the service it's taking longer and longer for mail to get where it needs to go.
You're 100% correct on that as well. So, all right. Remember the good old days when if you had good credit, you get better interest rates and lower fees?
Yep.
Now, I almost included this in the stupidest thing I've heard all week category, but it's so ridiculous, I thought it deserved its own segment. At the behest of the Biden administration, both FHA and Fannie Mae, which are the two biggest, the government entities that underwrite mortgages in this country, will enact changes to their loan origination fee structure starting May 1. Under the new rules, buyers with high credit scores ranging from 680 to above 780 will see a spike in their mortgage origination costs, with applicants who have a down payment between 15 and 20%, which is high because I think the minimum is 3%. So applicants with good credit scores who put down 15 to 20% will see the biggest increase in their mortgage origination fees. Under the revised plan, a home buyer with a 740 FICO credit score and a 15 to 20% down payment will face an additional 1% surcharge. And you know what that 1% surcharge is going to be used for?
What?
It's going to be used to discount the surcharge of buyers with crappy credit scores. So buyers with credit scores of 679 or lower and less than a 10% down payment will have their mortgage origination fees slashed, resulting in more favorable mortgage rates. And for example, a buyer with a 620 FICO credit score with a down payment of just 5% or less will get a 1.75% fee discount, a decrease from the old mortgage origination fee of 3.5%. So can you imagine charging the people with good credit and big down payments more so you can discount the mortgage origination fees for people with crappy credit and little down payments?
That is really ridiculous. You should be rewarded for your good credit with lower interest rates. Now, fees should just be flat fees across the board.
Well,
If it's an
there's
origination fee.
well, by the way, and that fee can be put into the mortgage rate too. You can
Yeah.
roll that fee into the mortgage rate.
And we spoke, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about just because you're poor doesn't mean you have bad credit, and just because you're rich doesn't mean you have good credit.
Correct.
It's how you use what you have available to you,
Right.
regardless of whether you're wealthy or poor.
But in this case, they're taking people with significant down payments and combined with good credit scores and using that to subsidize the fees of people with crappy credit and 5% less down payment. It's the world turned.
That
It's
is
bizarro
terrible.
world. It's the world turned upside down. So only in this country will good credit cost you more than somebody with bad credit. So that's what I'm shaking my head about. All right. Remember last week we talked about Whole Foods in San Francisco closing its store due to high crime and shoplifting.
Mhm.
Well, guess what? In just 7 days, we have 3 more chains closing a total of 6 more stores.
All in San Francisco?
No, 2 in Portland and 4 in Chicago. The first one,
Oh, yep.
Chicago, Walmart is closing 4 area Chicago stores after years and years of losses. And this is a quote of tens of $1 million per store. Apparently, the crime and the shoplifting has just gotten out of hand. And they said, we've tried extra security. We've tried locking things up, but we just can't keep, absorbing these losses. People, you say, well, shoplifting is a cost of doing business. Those big corporations can afford it. Well, guess what? You know what what Walmart's profit margin was, their after-tax profit margin?
No.
5.6%. Now, here's a couple of blowback. Have you heard the term food desert?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, of course, all these Walmarts are super Walmarts with big food sections. And you know how many people the typical Walmart employs?
Oh, I'm going to say a couple hundred.
You're right. A Walmart with a food section employs about 300 people. So if you're going to close 4 Walmarts in the greater Chicago area, number one, you're going to create some food deserts. And for low income people who don't own cars and rely on public transportation, this becomes a real problem. Because if you don't own a car and the local neighborhood Walmart is closed, where you're going to buy your groceries. And then on top of that, you're putting 1,200 people out of work. And Walmart is not a low end. Walmart pays, I think the average pay in Walmart, I know around here they're paying $17.50 just for people to stock shelves. And that's $17.50 with benefits. Employer health insurance, 401k, paid vacation. So Chicago's going to lose 1,200 jobs, and they're going to lose 4 big stores. Now, that's Chicago. Now, in Portland, believe it or not, the premier coffee chain in Portland is not Starbucks. It's a place called the Coava Coffee Roasters. And they have said with a heavy heart, it will shut down one of its locations in Portland due to, quote, lawlessness in the area. And here's a quote. We have decided to permanently close our downtown Portland cafe on Jefferson Street, with the last full day of operations being this Thursday. The team members of the cafe have been on the front line enduring extreme violence and criminal activity on an almost daily basis for the last few years, crime and violence that is only increasing in frequency and severity. So that's the coffee shop. Now, also in Portland, are you familiar with the outdoor store chain REI?
Yes. Yeah.
REI, mountain climbing, hiking, camping. Also in Portland, just down the block from this coffee cafe, REI has announced it's closing one of its stores because, and here's a quote, in announcing the closure, they said the store had the highest number of break-ins and thefts in 2 decades, despite actions to provide extra security. They are closing up before their lease is up and are joining both Walmart and Nike in leaving Portland. Nike has also announced that they'll be leaving Portland, and Walmart has already shut down in Portland. So there you have, just in Portland alone, you've got the coffee chain, REI, Nike, and Walmart are all getting the hell out of Portland. Portland, by the way, is famous for defunding its police. So you know, this is the spiral of another once great city spiraling down into lawlessness. And of course, as all these stores leave, the shoppers will leave, the jobs will leave. You can only, what do you think that place is going to look like in 5 years?
Yeah, it's sad. And I meant to, I saw a stat on the Sunday morning show this past weekend. I meant to send it to you about, do you know what chain has been opening up stores? And this is also tied to a lot of desert food areas, food deserts. They tend to pop up.
Dollar General, something like that?
Yeah, Dollar General. They had a record number of stores open, I think, in the last year.
Right, and of course, what do you pay for a loaf of bread in a Dollar General compared to what you pay in a Walmart?
Probably about, well, it's considerably less, but I don't know if I want to say half as much.
No, I think you pay more. That's Dollar General.
You pay more. I have no idea because I don't shop at Dollar General, but
well, you know, if Dollar General opens up and they're the only game within a mile, trust me, you're going to pay more.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you when you went to college, you got a degree in earth science.
Yep.
So you all know about the makeup of the Earth's atmosphere, right?
Yep.
So if you were called to testify before a U.S. congressional hearing on the climate and CO2, and you were lobbying Congress for tighter, more stricter regulations on CO2 emissions, don't you think you would be at least prepared? You would know how much CO2 is in the atmosphere and how much it's increased?
Yeah, part of doing your homework.
Well, listen to this is there is, I believe, 4 of these people in suits and pantsuits, all college educated, all there lobbying Congress, and they're talking about the dangers of CO2. And this one congressman just asked this very simple question. He says to this panel of, quote, experts, how much CO2 is in the atmosphere by percentage? And listen to how they try to answer. Oh, hang on.
Take your best guess.
Oh, here we are. I'm going to back it up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Panelists, let me just go right down the line real fast. What % of our atmosphere is CO2? Take your best guess. You don't have to be accurate. All down the line.
Repeat that question.
What % of our atmosphere is CO2, carbon dioxide? Wild guess, it's okay.
About 5%.
5?
I'll just follow you then.
We'll go 7. I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2. so-
Now she's dodging the question. She's dodging the question.
Yeah.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
All right. How about you? I didn't hear you, Mr. Dreyer.
7.
7. Do you have one, Mr. Boyd?
So we got a 5, 7,
Price is right.
8. I'll hit the high end.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't mean to, I put you on ice. I ask a lot of people that because all we hear is climate change, CO2, CO2. I heard a couple of you on the panel saying you're looking to change your vehicles to electric, even though we don't have the electric grid. And me as a farmer, I wouldn't be real happy about running out and replacing $300,000, $500,000, $1 million pieces of equipment because someone wants it to be electric. The answer is 0.04%.
Now I'm going to pause it. Not 4%, not 0.4%, but 0.04, which is 4/100ths of 1%. And they were all off by 1,000%.
Yeah, I was gonna get to 0.5%, so I was pretty close.
Well, even you were off by a factor of 10 because it's 4/100ths, not 4/10. But you're right. It's you had to know it was less than 1%, and they're guessing 5%, 7%, and the answer is 0.04, which is 4/100ths of 1%. So I'll let the congressman finish speaking.
Not 1%, not 0.5%. It's 0.04%. And it's gone up from 0.03 over the last couple decades. This is what we're being all contorted into doing, is this tiny change in CO2. If we get below 0.02, plant life starts dying up.
And did you know that you need, of
Yes.
course, carbon
Yeah.
dioxide is necessary for the growth of green plants.
Mhm.
And at less than 0.02%, green plants start to die. So here we go.
So let me ask Mr. Boyd, what are a lot of your vehicles Tier 4 already, or the vehicles that you know about in the industry?
Yes,
All right, so that's the cleanest burning diesel equipment you can get, right?
yes,
All right. How about Mr. Dreyer? What do you think?
Yes.
Okay, so why would anybody be anxious to go out and change out all those vehicles that you've been upgrading? In my home state of California, CARB has eliminated lots of equipment. Trucks, we're down at least 70,000 truckers. And all because they don't make a mandate for a 2011 a newer vehicle. And so it's going to be harder to get things from the ports, all that. So anyway, I just wanted to underline that as we all get all giddy about trying to make everything electric, especially in my home state when they're shutting down the power grid and taking out hydroelectric dams. And they barely kept in place the nuclear power plant for an additional 5 years, which is 9% of our grid. I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know how you guys are going to do construction out in remote areas where there isn't power lines yet nearby or what have you, in order to charge this stuff. Maybe you'll bring generators. So.
All right, I'll pause it there, but could that be any more embarrassing if you're on a congressional panel lobbying for lower CO2 emissions? I mean, could that get any more
Oh,
embarrassing?
yeah, I mean, they definitely should have known the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I mean, it has increased about 50% since,
Right, from
foundation of the
0.03.
United States.
Right, from 0.03% to 0.04%. And by the way, as the United States continues to reduce its emissions, we go to cleaner cars. Meanwhile, you've got the two biggest countries in the world in terms of population, India and China,
I know,
are
yeah.
both continuing to build, open, and operate new coal-fired power plants at the rate of more than one per week. You probably didn't know my father, but my father had a saying in terms of putting this in perspective. With those countries with more than 1 billion population each continuing to open new coal-fired power plants, to put it in his terms, whatever the U.S. does or doesn't do in terms of reducing its own emissions won't amount to, and this is a quote, a fart in a gale of wind. Because I mean, literally, if they're building 100 new coal-fired power plants every year, us reducing our CO2 emissions by a few percentage points really doesn't amount to the proverbial fart in a gale of wind. So that hopefully that gives some people, you may disagree with me, but that's
No, when you're talking about the atmosphere, though, this is a global issue, not United States issue, and we need to get people like China and India on board with this. I mean, just look at the smog in those countries because of all the emissions they have.
right. So, we're doing, I think, more than our part. In fact, we're doing better than a lot of European countries who, by the way, there's not a single European country that I'm aware of that has met its commitments that were part of the Paris, was it the Paris Accords, the climate accords? Was it,
Maybe,
or was that the nuclear, what, there was
or
was
the G20 summits, or
whatever, but the US is the only country that is meeting its commitments. None of the
Paris
European
Climate
countries.
Agreement. Yeah.
Yeah, Paris Climate Agreement. All right. So let's move on to our next to the last topic. You always say it's the gun. You always hear it's the guns, and you got teenagers. So you take 5,000 teenagers, you give them guns and ammunition, and you put them in a confined space for 8 days. How many people you think got shot?
I don't think anybody did.
Are you crazy? You give kids guns, every people that are gonna get shot, they're gonna be dead
I
bodies.
went to a summer camp, and at 10 years old, we were on the rifle range shooting 22s.
Well, you're right, because there's actually two different organizations. One is the Scholastic Clay Target Program, the SCTP, and these are people that shoot shotguns. And by the way, the youngest shooters are in 4th grade. Now, how old's a 4th grader?
I'm gonna say 10 years old.
10 years old. So their ages 10 to 18. They're 4th grade through high school seniors. And the other is the SASP, which is the Scholastic Action Shooting Program. And the difference is, instead of shotguns and clay targets, those kids are using pistols and rifles to shoot at targets. So they're not using shotguns. So you've got the first group, the clay target, they draw 3,000 competitors, and the rifle and pistol group draws 2,200 competitors. So you got 5,200 competitors from 39 different states. They meet each year for a competition spanning 8 days. And in the history of the competition, there's never been a single shooting, either accidental or intentional. Nobody's ever been injured by a bullet. Nobody's ever been shot in the history of the competition. So it's, so how is it possible for 5,000 teens and preteens being given access to loaded weapons over an 8-day period? Well, hint, it's not the guns. It's, how kids are raised, and it's about parenting and about raising your kids the right way. Any thoughts or comments before we move on to our
Yeah, having gone to summer camp it was a family-owned camp. The family owned 4 camps, and since the 80s, and so they've been open for 40 years, and they've never had a single incident, let alone a death.
So again, but that's good. But just on a note, the National Rifle Association is ending up in their annual meeting in Indianapolis. And again, the National Rifle Association allows people to carry and wear guns at their annual meeting. By the way, the only time the guns are not permitted is, for instance, Trump was there, and Trump was under Secret Service protection. So during the very few hours he was there to give a speech, the U.S. Secret Service banned guns in the auditorium. But that was a ban imposed by the U.S. Secret Service, not by the NRA. And after Trump left, guns were permitted anyway. So the same thing, every year the NRA holds its annual meeting. They get 10,000 people over the course of the week. Nobody ever gets shot at an NRA convention. It's probably one of the safest places you can be with 1,000 people wearing guns. You'd have to be crazy to go in there and start shooting at people, because you'd be dead in about 3 seconds. All right. Taxpayer relief shots. Let me bring up the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, California, to explain what a taxpayer relief shot is. And here we go. If I can find my cursor.
If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully you'll save the taxpayers money.
All right, and he says that because obviously if you catch a thug and you have to put him on trial, give him a public defender and put him in jail for 75, 80,000 a year. You put the guy in jail for 10 years, it's $1 million of taxpayer money. Now down in Polk County, Florida, there's another sheriff called Grady Judd. And Grady Judge has a slightly different take on it, but same sentiment. And here we go.
I would highly suggest that if a looter breaks into your home, comes into your home while you're there to steal stuff, that you take your gun and you shoot him. You shoot him so that he looks like grated cheese.
And that was Sheriff. And by the way, Sheriff Grady Judge, how much time we got?
You got about 5 minutes.
All right, I'll give you one more quick clip from Sheriff Grady Judd.
But we have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
And that was Sheriff Grady Judd. All right.
Yep.
We're going to go to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where this car thief tries to steal a car in the parking lot of a shopping center, except the guy in the parking lot whose car he's trying to steal happens to have a gun. So here we go.
Moving on to a developing story that we broke just hours ago. A chaotic scene this afternoon in Coeur d'Alene, where police say a car burglar was shot to death by an armed citizen who ended up on the suspect's hood. The scene unfolding at the Silver Lake Plaza parking lot off of Canfield Road. Crime 2's Kyle Simchuk has been covering the story all night and spoke to witnesses.
Well, a lot of people witnessed this shooting. This is a very busy parking lot with a lot of businesses. We talked to one woman who went inside a store. When she came out, she said she heard a car revving, then gunshots. She ran to her own car to take cover. It happened within a matter of seconds, but it's taken Erin Riley all day to process what unfolded right in front of her in this parking lot.
Just a bunch of commotion and then super, super loud shots, like a gun or fireworks, and louder than I've ever heard before.
The Coeur d'Alene Police Department says a car burglar was confronted by an older man armed with a handgun. Police say the suspect got into a vehicle and, after some commands from the armed citizen, started accelerating toward the man, who ended up on the hood of the car, which crashed into this truck. The man fired multiple shots, hitting the suspect at least once.
Immediately, I just turned back around and just ran towards my car and ducked in front of it because I didn't know what was going on at that point.
The suspect died at the hospital. The armed man is also being treated for injuries. His condition is unknown tonight.
I feel sorry for him because definitely I feel like he was doing the right thing, trying to stop whoever was burglarizing. So it's quite sad, and I hope he's going to be okay.
North Idaho, we are a different crowd here. A lot of people have been trained. A lot of people do carry, and we are ready to defend ourselves and each other.
Yes, and do not mess with us up in here in North Idaho. We have guns and we've been trained. So, all right. Hey, we're running out of time. So, Producer Sue, you got anything to add before we close?
Nope. I'm thinking the weather's going to get a little bit better because it can't get much worse.
All right. Well, I want to thank all of you who listened to this podcast for giving up 30 minutes of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about things I find of interest. Hope you found them interesting as well. If you'd like to see some materials on the story links, Producer Susan's going to post them. You can find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com. Just remember, Jerzee spelled J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, double A, Jerzee, jerzeejoe.com. And if you have a question, you want to suggest a topic, you want me to send you some of these links, just send me an email to joe@jerzeejoe.com. With Jerzee, again, with Jerzee being spelled with an R and a Z. Other than that, I thank you for your time. Producer Susan, any closing remarks?
Nope. Just enjoy the cool weather while it lasts. You will never hear me complain about the snow because I do not like this heat and humidity coming up.
All right, Producer Susan, talk to you next week. All right, take care. Bye-bye.